Welcome to Cruise News, your daily update on everything happening at sea. Visit cruisenews.io to see today's stories and sign up for email alerts.
Today we're bringing you a really comprehensive look at the operational strategies driving the cruise sector forward.
Yeah, we're basically tracking the industry's timeline, right? Going from the absolute farthest booking horizons all the way down to the physical preparations happening in dry docks right now.
Exactly. First, we'll be looking at this massive surge in long-term demand, Fred. Olsen Cruise Lines reporting record-breaking sales for their 2028 itineraries.
Right, 2028. Which is wild to think about. And then from there, we're going to examine how the megalines are managing their near-term inventory. We'll specifically break down the mechanics of Disney Cruise Line's newly extended 2027 fare promotions.
And finally, we'll connect all that passenger volume back to fleet maintenance. So detailing how operators like AIDA and Costa are executing these massive, highly sustainable carpet refits to meet rigorous maritime regulations. Right. And doing all of that without slowing down their turnarounds, which is a huge logistical challenge.
It really is. It's a fascinating sequence of events when you step back and look at it. Let's start with that long-term horizon because the timeline here is, well, it's pretty striking.
It is. An unprecedented future demand requires really targeted pricing strategies today, which then forces a complete rethinking of how operators physically maintain the vessels.
Exactly. So looking at Fred, Olsen Cruise Lines, they recently recorded the strongest single trading day in their entire history.
In their history.
Yeah, their entire history. And this milestone was triggered by the July 22nd launch of an incredibly ambitious itinerary. It's an 87-night Amazon and Antarctica grand voyage.
And that one doesn't even set sail until 2028, right?
Right. To give you a sense of the sheer volume of demand out there, this 2028 sailing attracted 3 times as many guests in its first 6 days as the launch of the line's 2024 South America grand voyage.
That kind of exponential growth is just remarkable. And it's not just, an isolated spike for a single novelty itinerary. When you look at their broader company metrics, Fred, Olsen is reporting that their annual guest numbers have risen by 10% overall.
Which is a very healthy bump.
Definitely. And their near-term inventory is tightening up fast. Over a quarter of their remaining 2026 sailings are already completely sold out.
Wow.
Yeah, and looking slightly further ahead, their bookings for 2027 are currently running more than 40% ahead year over year.
That's massive. And the leadership at Fred, Olsen is attributing this to a pretty noticeable shift in consumer behavior. Their CEO, Samantha Stimson, she noted that the Grand Voyage launch contributed to what she called an exceptional year.
Right, because guests are just, they're booking further ahead than ever before.
Exactly. But what's really interesting is the demographic mix she mentioned. She pointed out that they are welcoming a significant influx of first-time guests on board.
Okay.
But simultaneously, they're seeing very strong loyalty from their returning passengers.
Yeah, and that returning passenger loyalty is directly reflected in their guest satisfaction data. In 2026, the line achieved record net promoter scores across 3 of its vessels.
That was the Bullet, the Borealis, and the Balmoral, right?
Yes, exactly. And for context, a Net Promoter Score, or NPS, is basically the gold standard metric in the hospitality industry for measuring customer loyalty. It essentially answers the question, how likely are you to recommend this experience to a friend?
Right. So achieving record NPS numbers across a fleet means the onboard product is really resonating with people.
And it's interesting to look at the breakdown of those scores. The Balmoral actually scored the highest overall.
Which is the smallest ship in their fleet, right?
Exactly. It shows there's a really distinct market for smaller, more intimate vessels that offer a completely different atmosphere than the mega ships. Fred Olsen is clearly delivering on that.
The company credits some recent onboard investments for driving those high satisfaction levels, too. They've implemented significant enhancements to their dining offerings.
Right, and they rolled out a new entertainment program developed with RWS Global.
Yeah. So for anyone looking to secure some of that remaining 2026 inventory on the Balmoral, just to see why it scored so high, there are 3 fly cruises scheduled for November of that year.
Yes, the Balmoral has a very active November 2026 slate. It starts with a 10-night Cyprus, Turkey, and Egypt itinerary. That departs from Limassol on November 9th.
Okay, and then?
That's followed by an 11-night voyage from Piraeus to Tenerife on November 19th. And rounding out the month is a 10-night Canaries, sailing from Santa Cruz to Tenerife on November 30th.
What really stands out to me here is how Fred Olsen is supporting these far-out itineraries with a very specific pricing strategy.
Well,
Starting in 2026, they're operating under a freedom fare structure.
right, which includes selected lunch and dinner drinks plus gratuities.
Exactly. And on top of that, they've instituted this freedom fare price promise, which applies to reservations made within the first 4 weeks after a new cruise is launched.
Okay, so that early booking window.
Right. And this raises a really key structural question for me regarding that massive spike for the 2028 Grand Voyage. We're looking at a 300% increase in early bookings compared to the 2024 launch. Is this surge primarily because this new all-inclusive freedom fare structure is acting as a shield against future inflation? Or does it indicate a more fundamental shift in how early luxury cruisers are willing to lock up their vacation funds?
That's a great question. If we look closely at the data, it points to a combination of both. But it really leans heavily toward a structural shift in capital commitment.
How so?
Well, the Freedom Fair price promise absolutely provides a financial safeguard. If you're booking a cruise 2 to 4 years in advance, inflation is a real concern, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Knowing your price is locked in and knowing your drinks and gratuities are covered, that mitigates the financial risk of committing so early. However, when you pair that price protection with Stimson's observation about strong returning loyalty mixed with new guests, it suggests something deeper.
Meaning they just want to guarantee their spot.
It's exactly. The luxury cruising demographic is increasingly prioritizing secured access over short-term liquidity. An 87-night Amazon and Antarctica voyage is a highly specialized finite product.
Right, there are only so many cabins.
Yeah. Passengers are deciding that guaranteeing their spot on that specific ship in 2028 is simply more valuable than holding on to that capital today.
That perfectly sets up our next segment, actually, because if luxury lines are seeing 2028 sell out because passengers are fighting for finite access, how are the broader, more family-oriented operators managing their near-term inventory?
Right. Totally different demographic.
Exactly. Let's transition over to Disney Cruise Line because they're utilizing a very deliberate strategy to stimulate demand for early 2027. They've just extended a current fare promotion that was originally scheduled to end on December 31st, 2026.
Right. They've pushed this promotion into the first quarter of 2027. This extension adds 38 specific departures from January through March of 2027.
And that's spread across a few ships, isn't it?
Yes, the added inventory spans 3 different ships on 2 different coasts.
Yeah.
Out of San Diego, the Disney Wonder has 21 departures, covering Baja and the Mexican Riviera.
Okay.
And then over on the East Coast, there are 17 Port Canaveral sailings. Those are divided between the Disney Fantasy and the Disney Treasure, handling the Bahamas and Caribbean routes.
Now, Disney lists exactly 38 specific departure dates across those 3 months. We obviously won't read off every single date on the calendar right now. You can view the complete detailed list of eligible sailings over at cruisenews.io. But broadly speaking, they've opened up significant availability across almost every week from the 1st of January through the end of March 2027.
Yeah, it's a wide net.
Let's dig into the financial mechanics of this offer, though, because it's not your standard industry discount. It's a fixed dollar reduction structure.
Yes. Instead of offering, 10 or 20% off the total fare, Disney is offering a flat dollar amount off per passenger. On qualifying 7-night sailings, the maximum reduction is $500 per passenger for a veranda stateroom.
And it scales down slightly based on the cabin tier, right?
Right. It's $400 off per passenger for an ocean view cabin and $300 off for an inside cabin.
And for eligible cruises of 6 nights or less, those discounts are halved. So $250 off a veranda, $200 off an ocean view, and $150 off an inside cabin per passenger.
The application rules are what really define the strategy here, though. The discount can be applied to up to 5 passengers sharing a single stateroom.
Up to 5, okay.
Yeah. Now, eligible accommodations are strictly limited to categories A4A through 11C. Concierge accommodations and suites are entirely excluded from this promotion.
Makes sense.
It's also important to note that the discount applies strictly to the voyage fare. It does not cover taxes, fees, port expenses, gratuities, or port adventures.
Just the base fare.
Exactly. Furthermore, it cannot be combined with other offers, and guests must complete their bookings by August 30th, 2026. Also, Disney noted that guests who already hold existing reservations on these newly added 2027 sailings aren't out of luck.
Oh, they can still get it.
Yeah, they can simply call the contact center to request that the offer be applied to their booking.
I really want to unpack this fixed dollar approach because it warrants a closer look compared to the percentage-based sales we usually see in the industry. Let's do the math on the maximum utility of this promotion.
Let's hear it.
If you have a 5-person party in an eligible veranda cabin on a 7-night cruise, 5 people multiplied by $500 means that single cabin saves exactly $2,500. How does this fixed dollar strategy effectively target larger family units as opposed to, say, a couple traveling alone?
It completely alters the pricing psychology for a family. Let's break it down. In a standard percentage-based sale, say 15% off your total fare, the savings might look decent on paper.
Right.
But for a family of 5, the compounding base costs of adding a third, fourth, and fifth passenger to a single stateroom, that still presents a massive financial barrier to entry. By offering a flat $500 off per person, Disney is actively buying down the marginal cost of bringing those additional kids or family members.
Yeah, saving $2,500 on a single cabin is an enormous, highly visible incentive.
Whereas for a couple, booking that exact same stateroom, the maximum they can save is capped at $1,000.
Right. It really changes who the sale appeals to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The structure of the math clearly signals Disney's operational goal here. January through March is typically a shoulder season for family travel because kids are in school.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So Disney is trying to stimulate heavy volume during that quarter by specifically targeting multi-generational families or larger households. They want to maximize the occupancy of those high-capacity 5-person staterooms. A flat dollar discount effectively subsidizes the kids' fares, making a winter family getaway significantly more viable.
So we have operators locking in luxury cruisers for 2028 and mega lines stimulating massive family volume for early 2027. All of this heavy future booking volume means these ships are going to see millions of footsteps over the next few years. Which brings us to our final segment, fleet maintenance. To prepare for this demand, operators are currently executing massive, fleet-wide technical and interior modernizations. Right now, a nylon producer named Aquafil has reached roughly 70,000 square meters of its Bloomback R2R carpet installed across refurbishment projects for Ada cruises and Costa cruises.
Getting 70,000 square meters of material installed is a massive footprint, especially considering Aquafil only entered the cruise market 2 years ago.
It's a huge undertaking.
Yeah, and for Ada cruises, this carpet is a core component of a larger modernization initiative known as Ada Evolution. This is a massive 7-ship modernization program focusing on their Sphinx-class vessels, and it's scheduled to run continuously through 2028.
The timeline for Ada Evolution is already moving quickly, too. The first phase kicked off with the Ada Diva entering the Chantier Naval de Marseille shipyard in February 2025. Following that, work on the Ada Luna and the Ada Bella will continue through 2026. Right now, Aquafil is in the specification and supply planning phase for the next block of ships in line. That includes the Ada Blue, Ada Sol, Ada Mar, and Ada Stella.
And concurrently, across the Costa Cruises brand, installations have already been completed on several major vessels.
Oh, really? Which ones?
The new carpet, which is utilized heavily in public spaces, is currently on board the Costa Serena, the Costa Smeralda, and the Costa Toscana.
Let's talk about the material itself, because the technical specifications are what really make this product notable for a modern marine refit. The Bloomback carpet is developed by an Italian manufacturer called Radici Marine, and it utilizes Aquafil's Econail regenerated nylon 6.
Yes.
The technical description notes it features a single-component 100% polyamide construction. Let's translate that industry jargon for a second. Why does single component matter so much when we talk about sustainability?
Well, it's basically the holy grail of recycling. Think of it like building a structure out of Legos, but you only use one single type of plastic brick.
Okay, Colin.
Standard commercial carpets are usually made of mixed materials, right? You've got nylon fibers glued to a rubber backing, stitched together with polyester threads. When that traditional carpet reaches the end of its life, it is nearly impossible to separate those bonded materials for recycling.
Right, they're all glued together.
Exactly. So it usually just ends up in a landfill. By engineering a carpet out of a single component, 100% polyamide, you completely eliminate the need to separate anything.
Wow.
When it's pulled off the ship, the entire piece of carpet can simply be melted down and regenerated into fresh nylon without any chemical contamination from glues or alternative plastics.
But the challenge there is that this single component carpet still has to meet incredibly strict maritime safety regulations. The Aquafil carpet is fully IMO certified.
Which is very hard to achieve.
Yeah, marine floor coverings are heavily regulated under SOLAS Chapter 2.2, as well as the IMO's 2010 Fire Test Procedures Code. To break those acronyms down, SOLA stands for the Safety of Life at Sea Convention. The requirements are incredibly stringent because, well, Out on the ocean, there's no local fire department to call.
Precisely. If a fire breaks out at sea, it has to be contained immediately. The IMO 2010 fire test procedures mandate that any carpet installed in general areas like long corridors or stair enclosures must pass the code's Part 5 test for surface flammability.
Meaning it can't easily ignite or spread a flame?
Right. Furthermore, it has to pass the Part 2 requirements for smoke and toxicity. It's not enough that the carpet doesn't burn. If it gets hot, it absolutely cannot release toxic fumes into the ventilation system.
That makes total sense.
Yeah, and cabin carpets also typically require this Part 2 compliance. Engineering a material that is completely fire retardant and non-toxic, yet still 100% meltable and recyclable, is a very difficult chemical balancing act.
And honestly, the logistical balancing act might be even harder. Aquafil is actively working with a partner called Ocean Circle to manage the collection and processing of all these discarded materials.
Which is a huge undertaking in itself.
Exactly. Christina Stefani, who is the marketing strategist for circularity projects at Aquafil, addressed this operational hurdle. She noted that the biggest challenge lies in transitioning the entire cruise industry from a traditional install and discard mindset to an install and recover model.
Right.
The company's ultimate goal is ambitious. They are already reviewing other marine product categories like upholstered furniture and decorative textiles for future recovery use.
Stefani made it clear that expanding into those new textile categories requires cooperation with partners, all the way from the initial research and development stage, just to ensure those strict IMO fire requirements are met from day one.
Yeah, you have to plan it from the start.
Her stated vision for Aquafel is to see if every single nylon component on board a ship can eventually be tracked, safely recovered, and fully regenerated.
I want to push back a little on the logistical reality of that vision, though, specifically regarding ship refits. We know that in a commercial dry dock, time is arguably the single most expensive metric for an operator.
Oh, without a doubt.
Every day a ship is out of water, it is bleeding potential revenue. How does the industry practically execute an install and recover recycling model during a tightly compressed dry dock period?
It's tough.
There seems to be an inherent tension here. On one hand, you have the extreme speed required to turn a ship around. On the other hand, you have the careful, methodical collection processes needed to preserve these circular materials. If you rip it out too fast, you damage it. But if you take your time, you delay the ship.
That tension is exactly the friction point the industry is trying to solve, and it's why Stefani notes that this transition requires highly coordinated upfront planning.
So you can't just wing it.
Definitely not. You cannot just send a crew in with heavy machinery to tear out 70,000 square meters of flooring and dump it into a general waste barge. That's the traditional fast method. The install and recover model forces all of that logistical planning to shift backward.
Meaning what, exactly?
Well, Aquafil actually has to work directly with the carpet manufacturers, the marine architects, and the ship owners during the design phase to revise specifications around end-of-use recovery.
So they have to engineer how the carpet will be removed years before it is even installed.
Exactly. The removal process, the type of adhesives used, the way it is cut, all of it must be engineered for quick extraction. Furthermore, this entire system depends on dedicated infrastructure. That's where their partnership with Ocean Circle comes in.
Right.
You need dedicated collection and processing teams waiting right there at the shipyard. As the old material comes off, it has to be immediately custody transferred, palletized, and moved off-site for processing without getting in the way of the thousands of contractors who are trying to load on the new technical systems, new furniture, and new carpets. It basically transforms a shipyard from a demolition site into a highly synchronized reverse logistics hub.
It's a really clear reminder that preparing a global fleet to meet the massive booking demands of 2027 and 2028 requires operators to redesign not just their marketing and pricing strategies, but the fundamental mechanics of how they maintain their ships. Thanks for listening to Cruise News. Visit cruisenews.io to catch up on the latest updates and sign up for free email alerts.